Oh, hey everybody. Today we're going to talk about the mode of truckload, specifically over-the-road full truckload transportation. And so what is full truckload? Full truckload is I'm going to show up at a shipper's dock. I'm a driver with a trailer, and the shipper is going to fill that trailer with freight. I'm going to drive that freight straight through, and I'm going to deliver it to its final destination. So unlike LTL, which is less than truckload moves at different spots. There's local drivers, there's line haul drivers, there's other local drivers on the other end. And the full truckload mode, if Kyle is the driver at pickup, Kyle's going to be the driver at delivery too. So as we get into this, I thought it'd be really good to cover the types of equipment in the truckload mode. Now, there are 19 of them, and we're not going to cover them all, but important just to give you a high-level understanding. So typical full truckload is you have a dry van, right? A dry van is a full 48 or 53-foot trailer. It's covered at all sides, hooks up to a tractor. So just a regular trailer. And then the other type of equipment you can have is refrigerated equipment. So if you're shipping, there's certain medical supplies and drugs and maybe some chemicals, obviously food, that ships in a refrigerated environment. And how to think about that, that trailer essentially looks exactly like a dry van. It's 48 or 53 feet, but it's gonna have a reefer unit on it. And the reefer unit is usually between the tractor and the trailer, and it's running here. And that reefer unit can be plugged in as well into the trailer to keep it at a certain temperature. Really, the only difference between the two, the size of that trailer is sometimes on a reefer trailer, it has rounded corners, and so you're losing a little bit of space within the trailer. So that's refrigerated. Then there's specialty. So if you've ever seen those really large and they're round trailers, these are carrying liquid bulk. And as a driver, you actually have to have a special permit to carry liquid bulk because these can weigh up to 200,000 pounds. So this would be liquid and it's a round trailer. It's got a pump on it that when it gets to delivery or pickup, you're hooking a pump up, the liquid's coming into the container, driver's leaving, delivering, same process on the other end. Again, because it can be up to 200,000 pounds, you're gonna need a driver with a special permit to run it. In there is also hazardous materials, right? So diesel, oil, flammable products. Again, hazardous materials comes with its own set of rules. There's placarding that needs to be on the trailer to identify exactly what the hazardous material is. And there's hazardous material trainings that the drivers will need to go through. The other mode that you'll see a lot is flatbeds. Now, flatbeds, why use a flatbed? So a flatbed is not a covered trailer. It's simply just what it sounds like. Just a flat trailer with no sides, no roof. Well, why is that? So flatbeds are used because you can offload and onload a flatbed product from any side, from the front or back of the trailer, or from the sides. You typically see front and back. Maybe you're unloading it with a crane. Maybe you have lumber, you have steel coils, or you can use a forklift where you can unload from either side of it. And within flatbeds, there's a bunch of different kinds. So you can have an extendable flatbed. The best way for me to explain this is think about a dining room table that has a leaf in the middle. This is going to do the same thing. It can separate. There's an additional extension underneath the flatbed. When you extend it out, you're going to get longer length. There's also a step deck, and it sounds just like it is. It's a step deck, so it has two floors sometimes, up and down. One thing about the step deck people do, they use it for is it is a little bit lower to the ground, so you can, that second deck that's lower to the ground, you can have higher heighted product versus a standard flatbed. So it just gives you more height. Low boy, almost like it looks like a step deck, but this has two axles, so you can cover almost 80,000 pounds. You're gonna see low boys when you see flatbeds when they have a bulldozer on it or excavation equipment. Within that too, it's called an RGN. And an RGN is a removable gooseneck. So let's say this is attached to the tractor. What an RGN allows you to do is it's taking the actual step deck or flatbed off of its tractor and putting it on the ground. So now you're lower to the ground for offloading that product. And again, think about bulldozers, excavation equipment. That's usually what you're going to see on a step deck. The Conestoga too, as well, that's also a type of flatbed. But let's say you have long lumber or you have long steel coils, you need the flatbed, but you still want coverage of a trailer. So you want the product covered. That's where you're going to use the Conestoga. And what that is, it's literally a removable tarp that kind of just, and it's on rollers, and it rolls out, and you adhere it to each side, and it becomes an enclosed trailer. So that's what a Conestoga is. The only other thing you also might see is you may ship your freight in a standard dry trailer, 53-footer, but you need blankets or to protect the freight. Maybe it's furniture with glass, or you need straps and load bars. So what are straps and load bars? So within the trailer, say this is the inside of the trailer, there's hardware on either side of it where you're nervous that your freight could potentially shift. And so what you want to have the ability to do is they load a full load of freight, and maybe they do it in sections just to protect the freight against itself, right? So maybe we want to have 2 sections where we have straps and load bars. So you're literally almost like a bungee cord you would put in the back of a pickup truck. I don't know, I use one to hold my paddleboard so it doesn't blow away, but it's that kind of idea. So this is going to be a strap that's going to come here. And that's kind of the strapping and the load bars. Sometimes it's a bar, sometimes it's a strap. The other thing you may want is decking. So your freight is not stackable. However, you've got good sized pallets where you could actually utilize the full height of that trailer. And so you're going to ask them to add basically a floor. So they're going to put a wood floor in here. And that's going to give you the ability to put pallets on top of the floor and pallets underneath. And that's going to give you better utilization of the equipment. It's important to understand in Truckload these different types of trailers, because these different types of trailers will absolutely dictate cost. The other thing in Truckload that you want to understand is mileage. How many miles are you going to be traveling and how fast do you need the freight? So consider that based on the driving rules today. If you're a driver and you're in the US, you have a 14-hour shift. Within that 14 hours, you can legally only drive for 10 of them. And then you have to rest for 10 hours. And then you have another 14-hour on-duty shift where you're only driving for 10. So let's say you need to get from one side of the country to the other and you need faster service. Well, then you can use what's called team drivers. And those are 2 drivers. They each have their own logging systems, meaning, used to be carriers would have books and they would just log their hours and they would get checked every now and then at truck stops to make sure that they weren't driving too long and they were resting enough. Well, now they have to record it in an ELD system. So you have 2 legal drivers in the truck. So imagine one's doing their 14-hour shift and the other one's resting for the 10, and then they switch. And so what it allows you to do is get faster transit. So if you're in longer lengths of hauls for Truckload and you want to have faster service, then you want to look at team drivers. So things to be mindful of, because I think next up after this, we'll start talking about how to negotiate Truckload. The one thing you need to remember in the Truckload mode, unlike other modes who they price in the labor, the wait times, all that, in the Truckload mode, drivers get paid to drive. And so if they have to do any more than that, you need to make sure you spell that out for the drivers so that you get the service that you need. So I hope this was useful. Again, this is kind of what you see in the Truckload modes and what typical trailers look like.